you go do it your way, I'm moving forward. And from that moment, my focus was not on him, it was on living my life. It was on finding out how to redeem all of those lost years, all of those years of pain, all of those years when felt like I could have done something for the Lord. I could have made more of my life. I wanted to make more of my life. And yet at that juncture, I made a switch. And so what happened, which was really interesting, is that God used that, my husband, me telling him he went into therapy, he got involved in men's Bible study, we got into a Sunday school class, which we'd never gone to a Sunday school class before because he worked so much. And through that, he bought me a brunch ticket where a woman was speaking who had written a book. And I just asked her, how did you write a book? Like, where did you figure out how to do that? And she told me it was through a organization she went to that helps you turn a passion into a speaking and writing ministry. And I just kind of took a note of it. And a couple years later, I actually went. And while I was there, they had you write kind of an outline of what you might write a book from. And I did, which I'd never thought about before. And the woman that was in my small group looked at that and she said, that needs to be a book. So I signed up in faith to go 10 months later to a writing, like the Christian Booksellers Association's annual event. And there would be editors there where I could talk to and pitch my book. And I got it done, and I went and I found a publisher who published it. So I have spent all those years since then. I went back to school, I got a master's degree in counseling. I have a ministry to women and men in difficult relationships that my primary purpose is to give them first scriptural truths to help them understand foundationally, what does the Bible say about difficult marriages? What does it say about submission? What does it say about our rights and our boundaries and how we're supposed to respond and when we speak up the truth and say the truth and what we say, how we say it? What are those things? And I have written 4 books and have a 5th one that is going to be out within like about 3 months. And God has just turned this into an amazing ministry where I get to teach Christians, mostly women, in difficult relationships and difficult marriages, what God's word says about getting healthy in those marriages, and most importantly, not tolerating abuse. So when I think back to how it felt to be in that pain, which was incredibly painful, I do remember some feelings that went along with some of that and some perceptions. And I know that abuse goes in cycles. So there would be times where things were, relatively calm and they seemed to be pretty normal. And I remember this feeling of relaxing. I remember standing, and this happened many times, I remember doing dishes and just feeling and cooking dinner and thinking, oh, I can breathe. I don't have to worry. I don't have to walk in eggshells. I don't have to strain to figure things out. Because when my husband used to say something to me that was abusive and twisting my words or invalidating or discounting or ridiculing, I would literally go through this massive confusion of thinking, and my brain would just go crazy. And I remember taking out notebooks, and then he'd ridicule me for writing in my notebooks. I remember writing down what he said, what I said, and then I would write what I thought the truth was, and I would use 2-color pens. And I just went to all this work, and I tried so hard to get him to understand what the truth was and what was right and what was wrong about what he was doing. And when things got better, when I gave him those boundaries and he would make change, we would have, relatively years of just complete great. And I just remember feeling light. I remember it was like somebody lifted a weight off of my shoulders, and I just remember feeling so free and joy and feeling just comfortable. And then when out of nowhere an abusive incident would hit, I would be in shock. And I felt like the rug was pulled out from under me, and all of a sudden I just felt like I was just blasted with all of this heaviness and this confusion and this self-doubt, and I would have to go back and think, am I crazy? Did I make all this up? Because that's what happens when we're in an abusive relationship. We do kind of an all good, all bad. When my husband was in that abuse, I had it right in front of me. I knew that bad. But then when he would do something good, I would feel confused. I was like, well, he's this really nice guy. He was just really kind and gentle. He did this good thing. Well, then all of a sudden he did this bad thing. The person who has the ability to be nice, to be good, is also the person that can be very bad. Those are one person. Sometimes in therapy, I would have women list the good traits and the bad traits and then put her husband's or her partner's name up there, and then I would take a circle and go around it and say, this is who he is. He's both. And that helps. It keeps the confusion away of not trying to figure out, is he really the good person or is he really the bad person? So I just remember that weight and the heaviness versus that lightness, and just that the feeling life is gloomy and dark and difficult versus light is carefree and joyous. So the feelings are, paying attention to your feelings, it's hard because it's so painful. The other thing is, because my way of responding to this was to explain and to talk about it, the same thing I did in my childhood, and to get angry. I got angry many times. I would get angry, I would yell, I would scream at him, I would get emotional, I'd lose control, and just talk and talk and talk. And I remember just that feeling of having to be desperate to tell him and explain to him, and then recognizing that I didn't have to do that when things were better, that I could just relax and let him figure out his own stuff, was again this contrast of this, all the weight being on my shoulders to figure things out versus I can just let him do his part and I can do my part. The other thing was recognizing that he could be, allowing him to be, like if he's upset or angry or moody today over something, I can let him be that way without feeling like I have to change him now. I can let go. I could set boundaries with something that is not okay, but at the same time, I don't have to fix it when he's angry with me. That's one way I know that I've gotten a lot healthier, because I recognize it's not my problem. It's not my stuff. It's not my issue. If there's something that he can directly address with me in kind, healthy words, I'm fine. I'll talk about it. But if it's out of a mood or if it's out of his own anger or his own issues, I'm not talking about it. I'm not going to discuss it at this point, and I'm not going to worry about it. I just keep going on and doing whatever it was I'd done before and let him figure it out, and he usually does. And so that is a huge difference. So my ministry now is called Change My Relationship, a website, changemyrelationship.com. I have written books on difficult marriage, difficult relationships, boundaries, self-image, also just a new 365-day devotional for Christians in difficult relationships. Everything's scripture-based, but I also give a lot of practical tools. The practical tools that I learned reading hundreds of books, literally trying to figure this out. I am now a licensed marriage family therapist. I don't see clients because my entire time is taken up with my ministry. I have devotionals that you can sign up for and subscribe. I do podcasts, Facebook posts, and also YouTube videos. So the ministry is worldwide, reaching out to Christians in difficult relationships, really kind of being the voice of taking away that confusion and that scriptural misunderstanding. I just talked to a woman the other day. I interviewed her on my podcast, and I asked her, well, when did you first meet me? And she said, years ago, about 10 years ago, and you were the first Christian who ever said that I could be a Christian, have heard God's will and married my husband, and yet be in pain and be real about it. And she said that was just a light bulb went off for me, and my life changed. So that is my passion, is to help Christians in difficult relationships to understand God's concern, God's compassion, God's love, God's grace. He's not judging us. He's not looking down and saying, oh my gosh, you got mad at that person, or you're not smiling and happy all the time. What's wrong with you? He is compassionate, but also to know that his word is filled with truths that can help us to make either our relationships healthier, and if not, to make ourselves healthier, to where we can set boundaries to protect us in those relationships. So I am grateful, I'm passionate, I feel privileged to have been used by God in this way and to have God redeem all of the brokenness. And I call them the wasted years, because I remember reading a devotional in Streams in the Desert years ago, first into my marriage, and I was like, God, why am I in this desert? And it's so dry and so long, and I'm in so much pain, and it's not what I expected, it's not what I wanted. And God, I remember, told me, you're gonna be there a while. You're gonna be there for quite a while, but I am going to bring you out, and I am going to redeem it. And He has. God is faithful, and I just feel blessed. I feel privileged to have been used by Him and to have the opportunity to serve. I also have a passion, as Mabel does, to help people in the church to understand how to relate to Christians that are in these abusive relationships and in these difficult relationships with family members, to know how to support them rather than to cause them more pain. Because I myself have experienced that, and I've seen far too many women and men who have been told things by well-meaning people in the church that have ended up causing them tremendous pain, confusion, and have caused them to go back into isolation like I did when those things were said to me. So I really appreciate you listening to my story. I hope that it has been helpful to you to understand what abusive relationships are like, and that you will be able to more effectively reach out to those that are in them. So God bless you. Thank you.